What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and today I'm going to share with you guys 5 of my favorite books that I recommend you read if your goal is to get out of your own way and become a better version of yourself. Now, I always hated reading, to the point where when I was in high school, I never actually read any of the books that were assigned to us in English class because, frankly, I hated reading that much. And I think it came down to the point where when somebody tells you that you have to do something, as a human, you don't really want to do it. And then the books that we were reading weren't really ones that I felt I could get into. I would start reading them. I had great intention. I wasn't just completely ignoring the assignment. It was I would start reading and then I would get so out of it to the point where I just wasn't able to actually focus on what was going on because I just couldn't get into the book. So all of that to say, I went throughout my entire college career not reading any sort of books, anything, nonfiction, fiction, personal development, education. I would read my textbooks when I needed to for assignments. But to be honest, and a lot of people who went to college probably know this, you barely fucking touch your textbook that you spend hundreds of dollars on. But that's another story. So I got out of college and I still didn't really read at all. But that's actually when I started to find podcasts. And from podcasts is where I actually started to read or become more okay with the idea of reading, where I kind of went to audiobooks. So one of the first podcasts that I started listening to was all about sales. So it was the Dave Ramsey show, and I think it was Grant Cardone's podcast. And then I read Grant Cardone's book, 10X, or the 10X Rule. And that book, I have actually reread since then. That was really the first book that I got through the entire book. I listened to it on audiobook. And then I was like, I really want to start reading books, physical books. So I started going to bookstores that, there was a local bookstore right down the block from the gym that I worked at. And between clients, I would always go to the bookstore and just kind of look through all of the business and personal development books and mindset books that they had. And I would start reading these books. And I fucking loved it. And it's crazy how you grow up and you think that you hate something just because it wasn't the right time for you, or it just wasn't the right thing of that category. For example, with books, I was given books that were classic American literature books. And to this day, I'm still not really fucking interested in those books. If I went back to them, I probably would enjoy the story. But to be quite honest, the reason why I fell in love with the personal development space of books and the mindset and the nutrition education and the fitness education was because I loved the idea of learning new shit. And I love the idea with personal development books of being able to take the situation that you're in or that you have gone through and use these books to help you get out of those situations to level up your life. And as a coach, I use what I learn in books that I read to further help my clients so I can be better for them. So it doesn't just come down to bettering myself. It comes down to bettering the people that I coach, which is really what I care about more than anything, because that's my real true passion, is helping people and creating an impact. And reading allows me to do that more effectively. So I took a hiatus from reading when I got really dialed into my career at Fitness Connection. When I moved to North Carolina from New York, I started as an assistant fitness manager at Fitness Connection, which is a chain of gyms. They're really big in Texas, but they had a couple locations in North Carolina. They have a couple of locations in Nevada. And I'm pretty sure as of recently, they're opening some locations in Georgia. Really great gym. Just working in the corporate gym setting isn't for me anymore because there's so much propaganda that goes along with it. And a lot of the times I do question if they actually care about helping people. Or again, if it's just they think with their wallets more than anything. Again, that can be for another podcast. But when I started as an assistant fitness manager at Fitness Connection, I went from being personal trainer, head personal trainer at the previous gym that I was working at in Brooklyn, Crunch, and the assistant fitness manager role was completely different than anything I'd ever done before. Because as a personal trainer, yes, I was selling my clients. You are always selling people in your life, and I know that now more than anything, is that if you're trying to get your client to buy into a workout routine or a nutrition plan or doing something, then you're technically selling them. However, I sucked at the sales part of things. So I sucked at being able to tell a client, hey, you need to extend, or hey, you need to actually invest in personal training if you want to become better. But I never looked at it like that. I always looked at it as, I don't want to feel salesy. I don't want to look salesy. I don't want to look like I'm trying to sell them. When in all reality, I was just trying to help them. And when I moved into the role of assistant fitness manager, that was literally all that we did. We just sold personal training. We took people through their free fitness assessment that they got when they joined the gym, or we gave anybody who was in need of personal training, we gave them that free fitness assessment to really figure out, okay, what are your pain points? What are your struggles? What are your fears and frustrations? What's your goal? Why is that important to you? And how can we help? And so I would sell them a personal training package, and then I would pass them off to one of my trainers. And like I said, I sucked at sales because I was getting in my own way. So that's when I was like, okay, let me go to Barnes & Nobles and literally buy like the best sales books that I can find. So I Googled like top 5 sales books, and I bought all of them and read all of them. And guess what? I started to become better at sales because I was practicing it, because I was reading about it, because I was expanding the knowledge. However, I wasn't just acquiring knowledge like a lot of people do, because knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. So I was taking in the information that I was reading, and I was applying it to my life, and it was producing results, and I was becoming a better version of myself. So then I thought, okay, cool, I'm getting better at this sales thing. What else do I want to get better at? And I knew that my mindset was shit. So I was like, cool, how can I get better mindset-wise? How can I increase the belief that I have in myself? How can I learn all of these different tactics to make me more successful in all areas of my life? So I went to reading. And I got enwrapped in my career at Fitness Connection, where reading did take a back burner, where I was like, I'm working like 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day. I'm at the gym from 5 a.m. when we open until 9, 10 p.m. And then I'm just dead by the time I get home. So I didn't really read until welcome to 2020, when I was furloughed for the government shutdown for the scamdemic, and I started 75 Hard. And when I started 75 Hard, that's when I really truly found my passion for reading. And I just wanted to kind of give you guys a backstory, because I think a lot of people think that you have to immediately fall in love with something in order for you to actually do it, when in all reality, that's not the case. You might suck at something at first. I sucked at reading because I was very slow at reading. Now I can read my 10 pages. I read 10 pages every single day. I read 10 pages a day for a couple reasons, and I'll get into that. But I can read it very quickly now and actually digest and absorb the information. But it took a lot of practice to get here. Now, the reason why I do 10 pages a day is because if you've ever done 75 Hard, 10 pages a day is one of the critical tasks. And when I started 75 Hard, again, that's when I started to fall in love with reading. And I started to develop all these different skill sets because I was able to digest and absorb the information much better doing it at a rate of 10 pages a day. I used to always get a book and read 20, 30, 40, 50 pages, and then I wouldn't come back to that book for another week, and I'd be like, what did I even read? And I would probably have to go back and reread things again. What I know now is that, for me at least, doing 10 pages a day helps me absorb the information, helps me actually learn the information so that I can apply it to my life. And I read books much more quickly because it just becomes a habit of 10 pages. It's just 10 pages. I can do 10 pages instead of saying I'm going to read for 30 minutes. And then over time you're saying, I don't really feel like reading for 30 minutes. But anybody can do 10 pages. That's easy money. So I wanted to give you a backstory about how I got into reading. And ever since starting 75 Hard that first time in March of 2020, I've read a fuck ton of books. In fact, I have a bookshelf here that I'm looking at in my office that's filled with books that I've already read, and a lot that I've already read multiple times. And I get the question a lot from clients like, hey, what book do you recommend that I read? And over my years of reading, again, not a professional, so I don't think I am, but I've read a lot of books. And in my opinion, these are the 5 books that I would recommend anybody read if their goal is to become a better version of themselves and to get out of their own way. Because that's what I do. It's in my Instagram bio. I help people get out of their own way. Because I used to stand in my own way, and to be honest, I still stand in my own way a lot. However, I'm getting better at it. And recently I've had a breakthrough where I literally tore down that brick wall, and I'm done standing in my own way because it's fucking frustrating. But we'll save that for another podcast. There's a lot of mini podcast topics that I'm getting out of this episode just talking. But I won't waste any more of your time because I respect your time. I respect my time. And I want to make sure you guys get value from this podcast. So all of the books that I discuss are going to be down in the show notes below with a link so that you can just click on the link and order that book so that way you can start reading immediately. Or as soon as you get the book in the mail. I prefer physical books. You can do an audiobook if you'd like. But there's something about just holding a book, folding the page, reading that. I just like it. Now, these are in no particular order. They came in order of whatever came out of my mind. And I had to think about this list a little bit because, again, I've read a lot of books and there have been a lot of impactful books. And there's a lot of books that I'm like thinking, oh, wow, I wish I kind of added that to the list. But after thinking, I think that these ones will be very impactful for you. Now, with each book, I'm going to break down kind of a summary, not a summary, but kind of what the bullet points of the book cover so that you can determine from there which one you would want to read first if your goal is going to be to read these 5 books. Now, I'm also a true believer that some books come into your life in the right moment, and sometimes they come into your life at the wrong moments. And what I mean by that is there might be some books that you start reading and they're really not vibing with where you're currently at on your journey. So then maybe you come back to them at another time and they make a bigger impact. I found that for a lot of books. So the first book, and to be honest, like I said, these are in no particular order, but this is probably the book that I would say is number 1, at least for me. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. Now, I've read this one 5 times, and to be honest, it's probably about that time to read it again. Now, this book explores the power of positive thinking and mindset. So it really emphasizes the impact of your thoughts on your success. And it urges you to think big and set really ambitious goals. And I think that so many people in life maintain or attainable goals because they don't want to let themselves down if they don't reach something. However, I believe in setting impossible goals because if you aim for the moon, you're going to fall amongst the stars. We've all heard that before. But you'll be really fucking surprised at how much you're capable of when you set a goal that you deem as impossible and then you look back a year, 2 years from then and you realize that, wow, I accomplished that. It wasn't impossible. What else can I do? So I think this is super powerful to set big, ambitious goals. Now, in the book, he also provides practical strategies to actually help you overcome fear, self-doubt, limitations, to help you develop a more optimistic, positive, and confident mindset. Belief is so big, and that's really what this book emphasizes. And there's one quote from this book that I fucking love and I use all the time. And it's, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So if you believe that you can accomplish something, you're probably going to accomplish it. If you don't believe, then you won't. It doesn't matter who doesn't believe it in you, in your life. The whole world could not believe in you. But as long as you believe in you, that's all that matters. However, the second that you don't believe, that's when you're dead in the water. So I truly believe that this is kind of your guide to unlocking your full potential and achieving really big success. So if you're somebody who struggles with belief and confidence in yourself and having a positive perspective towards life, this is a book that you need to read like yesterday. The second book on the list is a relatively new book. I think it came out about almost 2 years ago at this point because we were living in Florida when it came out. And that's The Power of One More by Ed Mylett. Now, I fucking love Ed Mylett. I listen to his podcast all of the time. And to be honest with you, every single time that I listen to his podcast, it just happens to hit me the right way. It was like Ed knows what I need to hear right now. And this book is so impactful. I don't want to give away too much of this book, but he's great at storytelling. And I think that's why it's so impactful, because we love stories and we love to be able to relate to different stories. So he really emphasizes and talks about his father's alcoholism. And that's kind of like the main theme that he starts with, and he grows off of that. So he talks about how his father was an alcoholic and that his father stopped drinking alcohol. And one thing Ed says is that he would always ask his dad, "Hey dad, do you think you're going to be sober forever?" And his dad would say, "You know what, Eddie? I don't know, but I can be sober for one more day." And that's fucking powerful. Think about the days that you really want to quit on your journey. Think about you're on a fitness journey right now and you're trying to accomplish a goal and you're really tired, you're really defeated, and all you want to do is quit. You can go one more day. Just one more day. Don't worry about all of the other days. Just worry about one more day. The power of one more rep, one more phone call, one more day on your journey when all you want to do is quit. You can always do one more. Always. And that's why I love this book so much, because it really teaches you and shows you, well, you know what? Let me try to do one more day, one more rep, whatever that is. And then you realize you can do it. And then again, it starts sparking your mind to think, well, what else can I do? What more can I do in life? Where else am I holding myself back? And it pushes you to become better. And if you don't listen to Ed Mylett's podcast, you really need to. His podcast is probably, it's top 3 in the podcasts that have impacted my life the most. Now, the third book may not be for everybody. And what I mean by that is that if you have a really soft personality and you get offended easily, you're probably not going to like this book, but that's probably the reason why you need to read it. What I like to say is easily offended, easily manipulated. So if you get offended really easily, you probably get manipulated really easily. That's the harsh truth. People take things way too seriously in life and they get offended way too easily and they take things just too much to heart. Now, Relentless by Tim Grover is the third book. Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's personal trainer. And he talks about all of these insights from his experience working with elite athletes and really successful individuals, offering a no bullshit approach to achieving and maintaining a high level of performance. So he literally talks about all of these high level performers and what made them different. Right? He also has a book called Winning that you should read after Relentless. However, I like to kind of almost couple them together because Winning is also really impactful. He talks a lot about Kobe Bryant. And again, that guy had a bulletproof mindset. And it really emphasizes the importance of relentless work ethic, mental toughness, and having an unwavering commitment to personal excellence. And personal excellence, as Andy Frisella says, is the ultimate rebellion. So this really does serve as your guide to developing an unstoppable mindset and pushing beyond your perceived limits to attain any sort of success that you want. This is a fucking great book. Again, one of those books that I've read multiple times. So far, the 3 books that we've gone through, I've read Magic of Thinking Big 5 times, I've read The Power of One More twice, and I've read Relentless, I think, either 2 or 3 times. So the 4th book is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Now, this is a leadership book, but even if you're not in a leadership position or a manager's position, you need to read this book because it's more than that. It's a personal development book that draws lessons from their experiences as Navy SEALs commander. So they were in leadership positions themselves. And the biggest theme is why it's so important to take complete responsibility for your actions and for the outcomes, both in your career, but also in your personal life. And this is where so many people struggle, and this is why so many people remain stuck. Because they refuse to take personal responsibility for their fucking actions. They blame everyone and everything else around them for why they are where they are today, instead of pointing the finger at themselves and saying, you know what? It's my fault. It's my fault that I'm 30 pounds overweight. It's my fault that I'm not making the income that I want. People want to blame their boss, their mom, their dad, the government. They blame everybody else but themselves. And this book teaches you the importance of taking extreme ownership and personal responsibility. Now, on the leadership side, like if you are in a leadership position, you need this book. It stresses the importance of leadership, accountability, teamwork, and it uses a lot of really good stories in the military and transfers it into like practical principles that you can use in everyday life. So again, phenomenal book. Whether you're in a management or leadership position or not, it's something that I believe everybody needs to read because people need to understand the importance of taking personal responsibility. So last but not least, number 5, and that one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And one of the reasons why this book is in the top 5 is because there's an analogy in this book that's probably one of my favorite analogies that I've ever heard because it's so easily relatable and I think everybody can really understand it. So he talks about the analogy of an ice cube. And he says, okay, if you put an ice cube on a table and the room is 20 degrees, that ice cube isn't going to melt because it's below freezing. And as the temperature in the room ticks up, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, all the way to 31, you don't see any change in the ice cube. The ice cube remains the same. But as soon as it goes above 32 degrees, above freezing, that ice cube begins to melt and begins to change. And it's an analogy for habits and your life and how small things done consistently over time compound to create massive change. But so many people get impatient because they don't understand how the small, consistent actions actually accumulate over time to create those significant positive changes that you're after. People think that it's one big, extraordinary thing that's going to change their life, when it's really small things done for an extraordinary period of time. That's why I love this book, because it's literally taught me so much about the importance of doing small daily habits that improve your life over time. He also really gets into the science of how we form habits and teaches you actionable strategies to build good habits, break bad habits, and really master the little behaviors that shape your life and shape your success. And then he also does emphasize the power of habit stacking, environmental design, so like shifting your environment to be able to fit the life that you want. And he talks about the 1% rule, how getting 1% better over time, like I said, accumulates to create significant change. And this book is something that I think everybody needs to read, like everybody, because we all have bad habits. We all have habits that we want, but there's a disconnect because it's really difficult to just throw a new habit into your life. And it's really difficult to just rip out a bad one. but he teaches you really good, like I said, strategies to help you implement good habits and replace the bad ones that aren't serving the person that you want to become. And I love this book so much that I no longer have it on my bookshelf because I sent it to my brother a very long time ago and told him to text me when he got it. He never texted me. I wonder if he ever got it. But Kevin, if you're watching this, I really hope you read that book because it's a really good book. And my brother always struggled with building habits for fitness and nutrition. But, I got to shout him out because over the last year of 2023, he really got his shit together and he looks fucking great. Like, he's lost last time I saw him in, back when I was at my grandmother's funeral, I think that was in November. It was either October, I think, or September. It was one of those months. My life just blends together. It was before the holidays, and I saw him, and at that point, he had lost over 50 pounds. So my mom tells me that he looks like he's lost even more, and, maybe he did read the book Atomic Habits, and he started learning about the power of small, significant things done over time and how much of an impact they make. I can only hope. But, guys, just to go over that list one more time for you, we have The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. We have The Power of One More by Ed Mylett. Relentless by Tim Grover. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And Atomic Habits by James Clear. Like I said when this podcast first began, over 27 minutes ago, I told you that I would put all of these books linked down below so you can easily just click the link, go ahead and order the book, and have it on your doorstep, probably within 2 days because I'm going to link all Amazon things. So if you have Amazon Prime, which most people do, then you'll be able to get the book really fucking fast. Shout out to technology. Now, guys, if you have any other questions or need any other book recommendations, like say you've read all of these books and you're like, hey, what other books do you love that I can read based on where I'm at in my life? I'm all for it. I'm all for giving you guys some book recommendations because like I said before, I love to read. And currently, I'm reading the Book of Mental Toughness by Andy Frisella, which just came out on January 1st. And I'm about halfway through it. So far, as I expected, it's phenomenal and probably going to crack the top 10. But guys, I hope that you found value from this podcast today. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please share it on your social medias, tag me, share it with a friend, get more people to listen. Let's spread the message and go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.